Hey guys, before we jump into the actual video here, I wanted to address something that I somehow completely forgot to include or mention while shooting this video, and that is the actual title of the film, Do Good Things. Before you ask, no, there is no correlation between naming my company and my channel, Good Grief Media, and naming the film Do Good Things. There's no sort of connection to that. It's just it's a happy coincidence. Do Good Things was one of the last things that a very good friend of mine tweeted before having passed away, and naming this film after that, I felt I really needed to pay my respects, and I just felt that also Do Good Things is a very simple, blunt way of looking at things, and I feel that it sort of fit the subject matter of the film. Also, if you skip to the very end of the film, Do Good Things, you will see that there's a very quick sort of in memoriam segment of the credits that is meant for Sean. So that was sort of me trying to pay my respects to him a little bit. I still think about him a lot, but anyways, also if you watch the film and you see the sort of the segment that is in Amoeba, the meet cute scene as I called it, you will notice there's like this really cool ethereal song, and that's actually Sean's. I believe it's Noise 3. You can still find that on SoundCloud, Noise 3 by Sean Hofmockel. And I really just wanted to make sure that this was addressed before getting into the video and talking about Rudy and some of the other scenes and whatnot, that this is probably the most important part for me to address. So yeah, cool. Thank you guys so much, and enjoy the video. Do Good Things. Where do I even start? First off, I know probably the vast majority of you guys are here to hear me talk about this scene right here. And some of you guys are probably also here to hear me talk about working with Rudy Pankow, which obviously he was sort of the big star from this movie now, I guess. He wasn't that when we shot the film in 2017. That's why I was able to get him in my student film. But I'm sure you guys are here to hear me talk about that as well. So very quickly, I want to sort of rewind everything and just basically get back to ground zero and when I was making it, and sort of give you guys a little bit of insight as to, I guess, just sort of behind the scenes of like what it was and what it took making this movie. So a couple years ago in 2017, I was a sophomore in college at a film school in LA, and as a sophomore, they sort of ask you to make like a pseudo thesis project, or like a halfway thesis project, and that's what Do Good Things was for me. I don't want to go too much into my own personal experience with the film, but I think it's good to note that a lot of the subject matter, or more importantly, like the entire plot of the film, was something that I was kind of going through at the time. Obviously not to the extent that it was shown in the film, but it was something that I was going through, and something similar to that situation, which is kind of what pushed me and inspired me to write a film like this. I know that it's really dark. I've read a lot of you guys' comments on it, and that's kind of the whole point. There obviously is a plethora of people either putting timestamps of when that scene, let's play that again right there. It's either that or a whole sea of people saying, who's here from TikTok? Who's here from blah, blah, blah? I'm only here for Rudy, whatever. Before we really get into the meat and potatoes, I just want to address that, like, I know you guys don't mean any harm by saying stuff like that, and I'm not complaining because the video has totally skyrocketed in views, and I've gotten a lot of positive reception from it. I don't personally, like, really appreciate getting comments like that, just, again, personally, because it's, like, this is something that I really put my heart and soul into. I'm really glad that you guys are watching it and that you guys are appreciating it. It's just not something that I'm, like, super stoked on, that you guys are only here for Rudy or whatever it is. I know that he is someone that people stand over, but, yeah, I don't know. And I think that also I don't know if any of the other stars watched the film, either Emily Winter or Tom Duke, but I don't think that it would make them feel super great if they read just a huge amount of comments saying, I'm only here for Rudy, or like there's been a handful of you guys who have said like, wow, like the acting sucks, I'm only here for Rudy, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm asking you guys just like try to keep it positive if you can, and I do go through and sort of filter through them. Just so you guys know, this is my face reading the comments. There is a face on the other end of the screen, which, you know, I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. But anyways, now that that's covered, I sort of wanted to get into the whole backstory of everything. So like I said, it was 2017, and this was sort of my halfway thesis for film school. I was very proud of it, and it's funny, actually. So after I'd been done writing the script and it was passed from all my professors and whatnot, everything was, I got the go-ahead. I put out a casting call, and that's what you do a lot when you're, you know, shooting these short films, especially like student-led short films. You put out casting calls to like LA Casting, or there's a, you know, huge variety of different casting websites that you guys use or can use. And so I believe I used LA Casting, and when you do that, you get a bunch of different people that want to audition, and then basically you reach out to them individually and tell them when and where the auditions are being held, and then hopefully they'll show up and audition. You get that on camera and yada yada yada. But what's funny actually is, so I had a lot of different people audition. Actually, I mean, I want to say there's probably close to like maybe 10 to 15 people that auditioned for either the role of Mike or Sarah. Archie, the main character, was actually a close friend of mine who is an actor. Tom Duke, very good friend of mine. So I kind of was writing the role with him sort of in the back of my mind, and it was sort of, I knew that I was going to be giving it to him. Also because he was watching me sort of go through this emotional turmoil that sort of inspired me to write it. So if there was anyone who understood the gravity of the situation and what making the film meant and sort of what the bottom line was, it would have been him, especially him playing me in a sense, I guess. But so I put out the auditions, or the you know, the cattle call, I guess, the casting call to LA Casting, and I think within the first day, some of the people that I had reach out to me and want to audition was actually Rudy Pankow and Emily Winter. So that's actually a funny thing, is that I knew that Emily Winter and Rudy Pankow were both perfect for the role, and we just went from there. So I did still have a handful of auditions just to be sure, and, you know, just to be safe. But yes, so that was basically that. They came to audition and they absolutely killed the audition, and I gave them a call back and they showed up. And yeah, so honestly, working with them was an absolute dream come true. And I mean, I'll dive more into that, but that was basically the story of how they got casted, and especially how Rudy got casted. And I mean, past that, once again, this was a student film, so we were all shooting sort of just like, they call it guerrilla style, I guess, but not like guerrilla ape, but more just, I think it's guerrilla, very just hands-on, run and gun. They call it stealing the shot also, where we weren't actually stealing anything, obviously, but that sort of means we didn't have the proper permission to be shooting in places. So yes, like the opening scene was, if you guys recognize that location, that was actually in Amoeba, the record store in Hollywood. It's no longer there. But yes, so I had gone through all these different trials and tribulations of like trying to get different locations signed on, and that was either going to cost, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to do, which, as you guys know, I'm 23, and 3 years ago I was, you know, 20. I didn't have that kind of money. So that was out of the question, was actually doing it the right way, I guess. My dream when I was writing the scene was writing it in a record shop, and because there was initially in the first draft of the script, there was a whole piece of dialogue about how Archie and Sarah sort of meet over like a Smiths album. I don't know, it was kind of pretentious at the time. I guess it still is pretentious. Obviously I didn't shoot that scene, but yes. And so, you know, it was cool, but I had the idea. I went to Amoeba maybe a couple days before we actually went to go officially shoot there, and I'd noticed that there's a jazz section that's sort of just there, and I'm like, you know what, if we all walk in individually, maybe a little bit after each other, just sort of stagnated, then we could all be in there and make sure we have the same meeting spot and just go from there. And that's actually how that whole thing happened. I had the big camera. I was shooting on a Canon 5D. I believe it was like maybe like a 50mm lens on there. I just had that around my neck like a regular, just like a photographer almost. And I walked in with Emily and Rudy and Tom, and we all sort of just streamline it back to the jazz section of Amoeba. And, you know, I had a few friends with me that were just sort of at either end of the aisles that we were shooting on, just to make sure that everything was cool and good. But it was one of those situations where the less people the better, just because we technically weren't supposed to be shooting in there. So yes, that was a very exciting thing to shoot, and I was honestly super stoked on how it turned out. But yes, so honestly, after that, we just had the like apartment sort of fight argument scene to shoot. That was a friend of ours' apartment. Shout out to Osama. Thank you so much, my guy, if you're watching this. But that was super easy because we had permission. It was only a handful of us, so I won't go into that too much. That one was pretty much just super easy, and that was just with Tom and Emily. Same thing with the car scene. That was Tom's car, actually, so we just got to shoot in there and drive around Burbank. Yes, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. But yes, anyways, I know I'm gonna start talking about this scene right here. We'll play that one more time. There you go. I know you guys know what scene I'm talking about. It was the scene that just played, and I'm sure, again, it's a lot of the reasons why you're coming here. But yes, so the sex scene, that had been in the script forever. That was since the very beginning, because that is sort of the big payoff, if you will. That was sort of the whole thing, was that Rudy and Tom are on the parking structure, and Tom is sort of in the throes of like wanting to kill himself, but you don't really know if Rudy's ever actually there or not. He sort of just he appears and disappears very mysteriously, and that was the idea, was that in the sex scene, at the end of the sex scene, Tom, or Archie in the film, kills him, just beats him to death, because he finds him, Mike, sleeping with his then sort of on and off again girlfriend, partner, I guess, I don't know, Emily/Sarah. And yes, so that was kind of the idea. Physically, it was actually super comfortable. I wanted to make sure that all my actors were super comfortable. This was one of the first times that I was directing. And so directing a sex scene, if any of you guys out there are directors or have directed a sex scene, you will know that it is, or any scene that implies nudity or has nudity, the top priority is you want to make sure that all of your actors and all of the talent is as comfortable as possible. You want to keep the crew at like an absolute minimum, because again, you don't want a bunch of people in there just sort of standing watching you film a sex scene. You know what I mean? It would be weird and sort of just unprofessional. And so in the room was me and and my DP, my director of photography, Jack Nolan. Shout out to you, my guy. Thank you so much for all that you did. I don't know if you guys want me to sort of pull back the veil of magic, I guess, that was in that scene, because obviously there's and I don't blame you guys. Rudy is like a really attractive dude, and so this was kind of like a weird big deal that he was in a sex scene. So if you don't want that veil of magic pulled back, please just like cover your ears, close your eyes, whatever, just skip ahead. But yeah, I think we did the take maybe 2 or 3 times, and everyone was super comfortable. I had Rudy take his shirt off, but he had his pants on. So that was kind of the main thing also, is that he had his pants on. I asked Emily to make those noises. They're supposed to be having sex. So yes, and that was about it. As far as I know, that's not really something that you want to fixate on too many times or do like a crazy amount of takes with. It's really one of those things where it's like, you just got to kind of roll with the punches, and you get what you get. Yes, but I mean, yeah, that really was about it. I think that it was a really great experience. I have to really seriously thank all of my friends out there that sort of kept me pushing, because about halfway through shooting, I fell into some hard times, some very difficult and emotionally difficult times. My mental state was not the best. according to the film, even, you guys can, I'm sure that it's apparent there. But yes, so my mental state wasn't the best, and I had shot maybe like half the film, and I had a lot of really, really, really good friends that I'm still in touch with to this day that sort of said, nope, we're helping you out in any way, shape, or form that we can, because also this was sort of our final project, and if I hadn't done this, I probably would have failed. And so they kept it pushing. They knew that this was a really, really important piece for me to do. It was very cathartic, and I'm very happy that I ended up finishing it. I do know that I watched the film now, and it comes across as very cliche and sort of forced, and a lot of the dialogue seems to be on the nose. So I think that, putting it back into the situation that it was back in 2017, and what kind of writer I was then, what I knew about writing dialogue and writing a script, hindsight being 2020, I could have written it better, but that again is hindsight being 2020. And I think that this is definitely the best job that I could have done with the resources that I had available to me, and sort of the level of expertise that I had at the time when it came to writing scripts. And yeah, I mean, working with the talent was absolutely amazing. If you guys wanted to hear me talk about working with Rudy, I'll make sure to sort of put that at like a timestamp, or put a little sign down here just so you guys can see that. But I'm sure that you guys want there to be some sort of or drama, or me to say, working with Rudy was the worst experience of my life. He was a total diva, but I can't in good consciousness say that. He was genuinely one of the best guys I could have ever worked with. He was such a sweetheart. He kept the energy going. He was such a nice guy, and I really think that comes through, especially in his roles like in Outer Banks and some of the other short films that he'd acted in prior to Outer Banks. But he was genuinely probably one of the best people I've ever worked with. And I mean, granted, this was one of the few films that I had written and directed. I've worked on a lot of sets, and I've worked with a lot of talent. He, hands down, was one of the most charismatic, uplifting people that you could, be around and have on a set. And working on a set, especially something like Do Good Things, where maybe the subject matter is really dark and bleak, and also we didn't have a lot of permission to be shooting in the places we did, he was the first one to sort of make sure that the energy was up, and that the energy was keeping up while I was dealing with sort of the mundane directorial choices to be made, and decisions, trying to figure out what's next and what we're shooting next, whatever. Rudy Pankow was really the one who was talking to everyone and making sure that everyone was just able to laugh. It was a very, very fun set to be on, and I really think that it wouldn't have been like that at all without Rudy's help. I love the man to pieces. Honestly, that was the last time that I spoke to him, was working on the film. Since then, I've tried to reach out to him to get him on as a guest for my podcast, Let Me Explain. I tried to get him on to do an interview. Obviously, he is a much larger guy now. It's probably a little bit more difficult to get in touch with, but I love you, man. If you're watching this, I seriously so appreciate everything that you helped me out with on set, and you're doing really great things. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that, but I genuinely, I really appreciate it, and I'm super stoked to see you blow up like this. It was funny to see how everything played out, because it was sort of, I'm looking at my YouTube analytics one day, maybe about a month or so ago, and prior to Outer Banks, Do Good Things was at maybe 400 views. And if you look now, it's at, I want to say it's at just about 150,000, which is it's mind-blowing. Yes, and so I was checking the analytics, and all of a sudden I saw that Do Good Things was up to 1,000 or 2,000 views, and I'm like, all right, there's something that has to be going on. Someone shared it somewhere, whatever. And it turns out that one of you guys, I guess, shared it on TikTok and told people to go watch it, and people did. And, the rest is history now, but all of a sudden I started to realize, I started seeing Outer Banks pop up a lot, and Rudy Pankow in Outer Banks, and I'm just happy that I was able to work with him before he was this huge household name now. But yeah, I mean, Rudy Pankow was an amazing person to work with. He was literally probably one of the sweetest people I've ever met, and I would love to work with him again, even if there's some sort of cool reunion or like interview that we do for Do Good Things. Yes, it was a dream come true working with him, and that it's funny. Once again, I knew immediately that he had the part before he had even come to audition. I knew that he had the part, and yeah, he's a really good dude. And more importantly, I want to thank you guys, anyone who's watching this video, that you guys have been going to watch Do Good Things. That sort of is what I guess pushed me to make this video here, but also more importantly, pushed me to sort of get involved in making more YouTube videos and, streaming and that sort of thing, which I will leave a link to all those things down below, because for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a photographer. I took those photos right there. I'm a concert photographer also. Prior to all this COVID, I was a concert photographer, and those are all of my photo passes from different concerts and whatnot. If you want to see some of those works, please make sure to go and follow my social media at Good Grief Media and at Good Grief Analog. That is my official film page, where it's just 35mm shooting on film for photography. Aside from that, if you like some of the prints that I've taken, or if you like some of the photos that I've taken, you can go buy a print at goodgriefmedia.darkroom.tech. I think prints start at like $20, and I'm still donating a portion of the proceeds to the ACLU, so it's for a good cause. Please make sure to go and buy yourself some art if the funds allow you to. And yeah, cool. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.